Oh, I thought I lost you.
No, we're good.
Welcome back.
Hey.
Welcome back to Game of Pros, everybody. How you been, man?
Good, man. I'm excited to talk about all the news that's happened today. We've been kind of waiting for today, right?
Right. A lot of news happening today. Already a couple players signed, a handful of tags, and a lot of free agents. So we're going to try and get to all of them that we can today. We're going to try and hit at least the top running backs, wide receivers. Talk about a couple other things. We'll go down the list if we can. Just try and fit in what we can. So, question on everyone's mind going into this year: where will Alex Smith play?
Alex Smith, my bold prediction is that he's going to spend a few outings in his backyard playing catch with his kids, maybe his wife, if she wants. And I think midway through one of those outings, he'll probably snap his ACL, MCL, PCL. No. I hope Alex Smith plays, man. He wants to play. He's had a long career. This guy was drafted in 2005. Let him hope somebody signs him, and let's see what he's got. Just not
I think
here.
we had talked earlier. No, please, no. Talked earlier. Couple teams floating out there. The Bears, maybe, right? Bears are getting everyone. They're signing, I think, 85 players to their roster this offseason. But I hope he plays. And if he does, hope he gets a record deal. Speaking of record deals, Dak Prescott signed to the Cowboys. Was it, I believe, yesterday? 4 years, $160 million officially. Unofficially, 6 years, $260 million. Those last 2 years are voidable. It's a record $126 million guaranteed, no tags, no trades, and $75 million next year. What are your thoughts?
Too much. Nah, he's now the second highest paid on average, right? As far as quarterbacks goes, right under Patrick Mahomes. And he doesn't belong there, I don't think. I think we all see, he passes the eye test. He's a monster in fantasy. But he's not number two. So it's just a matter, I guess, where people see his value. It's a 4-year deal, which I think is short. I don't think a 4-year deal is long-term for a guy that's 27 years old. That means he'll be 31 with potentially 10 more years to go once the 4 years are up. But I think Dallas was a little handcuffed with the fact that if they tagged him, it was like they're on the hook for somewhere in like $45 million. So they were probably looking at a huge cap hit next year. So they were like, let's eat a giant amount of cap next year. And then it almost feels like next year they don't have that much like high expectations. They're not going to be able to sign as many guys. They're losing a lot of guys on defense, which is what something you've told me. But you have to do it. I guess in the NFC East, you got Dak, you got Daniel Jones, Heineke, I guess, and Jalen Hurts. You have to do it if you're Dallas. Happy for Dak, man. He's a good dude, it seems. And
right. Yeah. As far as I can tell, personality-wise, integrity, seems like a great guy. I'm happy for him. He had been talking about this. He's been talking about this for, I think, over a year, that 40 million was his number. It's about what Patrick Mahomes got. Of course, the length of the deal, the Cowboys probably would have liked to sign him for longer, but with his price tag, there was just no way that was going to happen. But he got his $40 million number. He seems happy enough in Dallas. Like you said, fantasy monster, but fantasy monster in recent years, in particular, because of that horrible defense, because he's playing from 30 points behind halfway through the second quarter every game. He's throwing it 50 times a game. He throws for 500 yards, but I mean, he's not. I agree with you. He's not Patrick Mahomes. I don't even think he's Deshaun Watson. I'm happy that he got his money. Makes things a little bit easier for the Washington football team. If they aren't planning on signing more guys, they can try and address. Sorry, if Dallas isn't planning on signing more guys, they can try and address some of those holes in the draft. But I just think there are too many holes in that defense. They lost 3 guys, Awuzie among them. I think Woods, one more. They weren't great. These, they didn't lose superstar players. They're not going to be much worse than last year. It's going to be tough to do something like that. But at the same time, re-signing Dak doesn't really make them better. And and from a health perspective, Dak last year, maybe the year before, you can make the argument that he's worth $40 million. We don't know what he's going to look like when he gets back from this injury. That was a horrific injury. Not maybe on the Alex Smith level, but you don't know how he's going to come back. So we'll see. I'm glad that he got his money, and if it handcuffs the Cowboys, then all the better.
Right. There's like you said, they're similar. They're like Washington, where they haven't had a solid quarterback. Like a perennial Super Bowl quarterback in a really long time. So they had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks are a commodity these days. If you can get your hands on one of those top tier guys, then you never let him go. I'm all about that. I mean, if the football team were given the opportunity to sign Mahomes to that same deal that the Chiefs signed him to, I'm all for it. I don't care if it's $400 million. It's not my money, sure, but I just think that kind of talent you don't find every day, and there's this constant carousel of quarterbacks in most teams where you're just trying to find something that sticks. And even the guys that seem like they're going to stick, like a Wentz, who seems like an MVP caliber quarterback, things happen. So if you can lock down one of those guys, if you can lock down a Russell Wilson or a Patrick Mahomes or a Deshaun Watson or the Dak of recent years, then I say go for it. All right. Dak signed J.J. Watt, of course, signed with the Cardinals, $31 million, a couple years. I think it was a bit of an overpay for the Cardinals, but I'm, again, happy that Watt got his money, and that, I think that the Cardinals are trying to build up that scary defense that they had back in the day. Maybe JJ gets some tacos in Arizona, feels better about himself, and is rejuvenated to start the season. Looking forward to it. Tags, it's really, for me at least, a few tags went out today. Leonard Williams, defensive tackle for the Giants, of course. Last year, probably a top 4 defensive tackle. Looked great. He was tagged Brandon Sherff, your boy, on the football team. His second tag, meaning that he was entitled to $18 million this year. We can stop there. What do you think of the Brandon Sherff tagging?
Isn't it interesting that there's not a single other guard in the league getting tagged? It's because it's not a premier position. It's, I think I told some of you guys in our message, he could be the best guard on the planet. 18 million in terms of value, it's too much. It's too much, but it's something that the NFL has done where this he's getting paid like a tackle would be paid in a franchise tag. So it's another situation that they've kind of been handcuffed. He's a monster, so happy for the guy to keep making his money. I wouldn't, I can't sit here and be like he should, but for the team, and as a fan, it makes me look at the salary situation, and I feel like with 18 million in 2021, you probably could really go heavy for one of these elite receivers like a Golladay or JuJu, and they're probably not going to be able to do that now. They do have salary cap. You know, they're around they're like low 40s. So, but you know they've got players in the draft.
They've
Got
got
to
some
pay.
room.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of those situations. I said in one of the other videos that I would have just let him walk and reinvest that money. And I mean, they've done a really good job of finding guys, Wes Schweitzer and Chase Rouillet, to step up on that offensive line. He is a top 2, top 3 guard and healthy. He's all pro. He is. It's also, I guess, one of the pros is like, it is a 1-year deal. He's going to be turning, I think, like
right.
30 after next year.
Okay.
So it is sort of like a low risk. You know, it's not a 4-year, $55 million deal where if something bad happens, they're stuck with some guaranteed money or something.
Right. It's not a huge commitment. It does allow them some flexibility.
He probably prefers a long-term deal.
Oh, who wouldn't? I mean, if you can know what your salary is going to be every year for the next 5 years, you'd take that over having a 20% bump in pay for 1 year, not knowing if you're going to be let go at the end of that year. Of course, you want the security, and it's, you know, outside of the money, it's nice to know where you're going to be settling down, buying a house, or, you know, expanding your family, things like that. I can understand that. I personally, I tend to agree with you. I think it's a little on the high side, especially for a guard. I think you and I had talked about it. He'll be $4 million over the next highest paid guard, who I think it was Zach Martin. But it's, yeah, I think it was Martin. I could be wrong. We'll look it up. But yeah, I think it's a bit of an overpay. I like, you know, like you said, I like the flexibility of the deal. But you mentioned if healthy, he's probably a top 5 guard, but he does have health concerns. I mean, he's not an Iron Man. We can look it up, but he misses a couple games every year. He does get hurt a little bit. Either way, for me, I agree. I think that you can get something somewhat reasonable for probably a fifth of that price. You can go out there and find a guard, maybe not a fifth, but you can go out there and find a guard for $5 million who can just about get the job done. And it's a premier position. It, you know, helps primarily with our run game, pass protection a little bit, but I mean, he's not a left tackle. You know, we're not talking about Trent Williams back in the day. It's a guard.
Imagine if they moved him to left tackle where he was in college. He wouldn't. I don't think he would do that.
I have to imagine that they would have tried that. Wouldn't you think that they would have done that after Trent left? I think Trent is also a free agent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe we get a 33-year-old Trent Williams back in the mix.
He's projected to get paid, man. A lot of the league still looks at Trent Williams like a all-pro left tackle. I didn't
watch a ton of Niners games. I don't think he shined particularly last year. I'd have to look at some numbers, but he was a Pro Bowl level player every year for several years for the then Redskins. So, I mean, he's earned that reputation, and well, I'm not gonna say he was underpaid, but he, you know, maybe was underappreciated here.
Oh yeah. Definitely not coming back.
A couple other tags. Oh, I don't think so. Couple other tags to talk about. Chris Godwin, one of them. Let's talk a little bit about Chris Godwin. How do you feel about Bucks tagging Chris Godwin? Sounds like he's slated to make $16.5 million this coming year. He had, I think, 67 catches for 840 yards last year. I feel that 16.5 is a little steep for a guy like that if you're just looking at it numbers wise. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, he's not really like a number one receiver, but now he's paid like one.
Right.
There's a lot of guys on that Super Bowl team that are going to be free agents. They didn't tag Levante David, but they signed him to a 2-year, $25 million, up to $25 million deal. But that most likely means Shaq Barrett is gone. Antonio, what's his name? Antonio Brown, who knows? Gronk, who knows? And Ndamukong Suh, who knows? Leonard Fournette, who knows? But out of all these guys, they decided that Godwin was the keeper, which I was a little surprised because it seems like they have a lot of weapons on offense.
Right.
So, but I guess
they have a number one already in Evans. They have a number one already. I think he's on our list of free agents, but Antonio Brown could have played opposite Mike Evans for probably, I mean, I could see Brown signing for a fraction of that $16 million. He's got a great connection with Brady. I don't know if he's terribly worried about money. I think he probably wants another ring. And I had seen Brown actually going back to the Bucks. I think he still may. Not too sure about Gronk. But yeah, it just, to me, it seemed unnecessary. Godwin just kind of takes a back seat.
Yeah. He's that Edelman
for
type
$16
of
million.
He's a very important like Edelman type of style guy on the field for Brady.
Sure.
But like you said, Evans, Brown might be coming back on the cheap. Gronk, OJ Howard's going to be back. Cameron Brate, like,
right.
What's the guy?
They still have Ronald Jones,
Scotty Tuhati,
Scotty Miller, right? Scotty Miller's a stud. It seemed unnecessary to me, especially for $16 million. I also kind of see him in that Edelman kind of role. But I think Julian Edelman is scheduled to make like $3 million next year. That's not a guy that you pay $17 million for.
Agree.
I don't see that. And then we have Allen Robinson, last guy we're going to talk about that received a tag. He will be with the Bears for another year. Are you surprised?
No. If you're the Bears, you have to do it. It sucks. It sucks for him, and it sucks for fans everywhere who want to see Allen Robinson with a good team, with a solid quarterback. It's never happened. It's never happened.
Right.
But they had to do it.
It's tough. They had to do it. They have nothing else. He wasn't. Yeah, they weren't going to let him walk. It doesn't sound like. I hope for his sake that Chicago can get some kind of decent football player to throw something to him. I mean, he's been dealing with not Philadelphia Foles, but Chicago Foles, Mitch Trubisky. Who else did he have thrown to him?
The list of guys who have thrown him the ball is ridiculous. I think if Alex Smith goes there, that might be his best quarterback in history.
I think so. And I think that might work for him. I mean, those quick slants. Robinson's a dog. He can get open. He can fight for yards. Alex Smith can't throw more than 10 or so feet. So that's perfect for him. And
you're being generous.
You know, I feel for Robinson. It's it sounded like he was trying to get out of Chicago. He will not be able to, at least for one more year. But how old is Robinson?
He's like 27.
He's like 27. Yeah, he's 27. He can still sign a big deal after this. I don't know if they're going to tag him back-to-back years. All right, so free agents. Sorry.
I was going to say, I was glad to see that Golladay wasn't franchised.
Right.
I feel like we got one guy who's like, all right, let's see him go to a better team. He's nice, man. He's the one guy of all these guys that could be a stud number one. Like,
Right.
Allen Robinson's a number one. Is he a stud number one? To me, no. Is Godwin a stud number one? No. JuJu, not a stud number one. Corey Davis, Curtis Samuel, Will Fuller. To me, it was Golladay who has the ability to be Mike Evans. You know, that type of player.
Oh, the talent level is there. I'd give maybe a nod to Fuller. I think Fuller can really show. I think he's got an opportunity to really show something wherever he lands. But I agree. Out of the group, for sure, Golladay is probably my number one guy. A few free agent running back names. We have top of the list, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones was not tagged. Looks like he'll be a free agent. From what I understand, the Packers do not have any intention to sign him. What do you think about that? And where does Green Bay go now? Is A.J. Dillon the guy? Do you think they'll sign Jamal Williams back? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually didn't know until right before we got on. I saw that Jamal Williams is also on the free agent list. And so I was like, wow, they're not bringing back, or at least to this point, they didn't keep one of these guys. They weren't going to tag Jamal Williams. They haven't
re-signed, right?
Yeah. No. Aaron Jones has to be the most undervalued, underappreciated running back possibly in history, in my opinion. Possibly in history. I feel like even in fantasy, Aaron Jones is underappreciated and undervalued. I don't know why. I think because everybody sees the Packers for so many years, they've been a throwing team. Obviously, with Rodgers at the helm. Did you know, man, I saw the craziest stat today, man. Did you know that Aaron Jones has a 5.2 yards per carry? You know who else has a 5.2 yards per carry in NFL history? Jim Brown, man. Jim Brown, who's been long
You have literally stolen everything that I was about to say. You stole everything that I was going to say.
Oh, man.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think he's one of the most underrated running backs. I don't know about in history. I'd have to do some digging, but definitely in the league today. He is an Alvin Kamara type player that's got some extra muscle on him. His 40 is only, it's like a 4.5 40, but he's patient. He's got great vision. He's got a 5.2 yards per carry. He can catch. He can block. He can do everything. And I agree with you. I think he's been overshadowed by the passing game, by Rodgers, by Adams. And, for the most part, Packers they can go under the radar. I mean, Rodgers, obviously, and Adams an exception because Adams is the best receiver in the sport. And Rodgers is one of the best of all time. Aaron Jones is going to go somewhere and light it up, I think.
Yeah. What is it? If this is his free agency, then he's been in the league 4 years. That's not a lot of mileage. They don't run him into the ground. Like, he's not Christian McCaffrey type usage. He's not Kamara type usage. He's nowhere near that. This is a guy, man. And when I look at the rest of the list of running backs, Chris Carson, James Conner, Fournette, Gurley, Leveon, the only thing that comes up to my mind is injury bug. All these guys have been battered with injuries. Some of them, where they've missed a year. So it's like Aaron Jones and then everybody else. To me, I hope he. Is there a team that have you seen like anything out there that's like connecting Aaron Jones with anybody, or somewhere where you'd like to see him go?
Nothing official. Nothing official. Nothing from Scherff or anything like that. There were a couple teams that I had that I had kind of thought of. A few places that I would like him to land as well. One would be the Bills. I would love to see Aaron Jones with Buffalo. I think that he would be perfect for that. I understand that, they have Zach Moss. He's still kind of developing. They have, he's a bruiser, but he's going to get hurt. It doesn't seem like he's the type that's going to stay on the field. The Bills didn't really run the ball very effectively last year, but I don't think that they had the options. If they had an Aaron Jones, I could see the Bills win it at all. One thing I had seen kind of surface, not officially, but was the Dolphins, which struck me with Myles Gaskin already there. I don't know what the level of confidence is in Gaskin, but I had seen Jones as a potential landing spot there too. And of course, the Bears. Everyone's going to the Bears.
Everyone's going. Yeah. Bills are one of those teams where I keep seeing all over Twitter, like, I would love for blank to go to the Bills. I feel like the whole country is like fall in love with the Bills, man.
Yeah. With good reason. They've never won one. They had those heartbreak years in the mid 90s.
Yeah, like underdog.
And they have it all. I mean, they might not be as complete a team as maybe the Colts or really the Colts are the most complete team that I can think of. But they have a superstar quarterback who everyone wants to see succeed. Their games are beyond exciting. They don't have a running game. Their defense is ferocious. Everyone wants to see Tre'Davious White continue to get better. I think that they're going to pick up a couple pieces on D. And you bring in a stud like Aaron Jones. I don't think there's anything that can stop the Bills if they do that.
I don't know. I don't know what their cap situation is like. I think they're on the bottom half. But when I looked at the list of the salary cap, availability going into next year, it's Jacksonville, New England, Jets, Colts, Bengals, right? So Colts, Bengals,
right?
They got their running backs, right? You got Joe Mixon, you got Jonathan Taylor.
Of course.
The Jets don't have a running back. The Patriots have 1,000 running backs. Jacksonville's got James Robinson. But one thing that stands out is that both Jacksonville, New England, and the Jets don't really have a solidified quarterback. And so that makes me think, if you just sign Aaron Jones, you already have, some relief for either, Trevor Lawrence, whoever the Jets get at QB, to help that rookie out. So of the two, and I guess New England, if New England gets Aaron, Belichick's not a big, pay a running back type of guy. So I'm going to scratch them out. But out of Jacksonville and the Jets, where would you like Jones to land out of those two? Those two teams have upwards of $70 million in cap. So they could pay the
guy. If I had to choose
with rookie QBs potentially, you got Trevor Lawrence down there in Jacksonville handing it off to Aaron Jones, or I guess Zach Wilson handing it off.
Zach
to
Wilson
Jones.
Or Justin Fields, maybe. I think the Jets are taking Fields, but I'd have to go Jacksonville. I know James Robinson was great fantasy wise, but he had so many opportunities. He was getting 30 touches a game, every game, all year. Anyone who does that, I think I had heard a stat somewhere, a fantasy stat, that given a minimum of 350 touches over the course of a year, there has never been a single running back player, a wide receiver is never going to get that, but a single running back that's gotten 350 touches has never fallen below the top 6 in fantasy points, because it's all about volume. And James Robinson did well, especially fantasy wise, but there's a reason that you go undrafted, that you wind up in that position. I think that with Lawrence at the helm, with Jones running the ball, and with the number of draft picks that they have, how many draft picks do the Jaguars have? Like 10 this year?
They've got somewhere between like 10 and 13 draft picks.
Right, with the number of holes that they can plug, and the amount of salary cap space that they have, I think Jacksonville could be a really exciting team next year. I would love to see Aaron Jones go there. All right, buy or sell next year, not knowing where Jones is going, but assuming 16 full games. Would you say Jones tops 325 fantasy points in PPR?
So he would have probably gotten that this year had he played 16 games, right?
So he played, let's see.
I think you told me he was
played
somewhere
14,
around like 280 or something like that.
He had about 270 over 14 games. 16 games, he would have had 308 this year. He had about 340 last year. Maybe 325 is too mean. I'll do 300. Does he top 300 fantasy points next year?
Plays all 16 games, yes. I'm buying that. Almost regardless of where he goes, man. I think he's a stud, and I think he's healthy. He's got 50 passes the last couple years. This guy doesn't get used as much as Kamara, CMC, even Saquon Barkley when he's healthy. Zeke, like, if he was, I mean, I see him being a Dalvin Cook. If he's used the same way, he could be a Dalvin Cook. Green Bay would use Aaron Jones to set up the play action pass with Aaron Rodgers, and it worked. They sprinkled in Jamal Williams. They sprinkled in AJ Dillon.
Right.
I think he's ready to be that premier running back. Not Derrick Henry running back, but I'm excited. I'm excited for Aaron Jones. I definitely have him in my like top 10. Definitely top 10 rankings. Obviously, he's probably in my top 5. I'm high on Aaron Jones. I hope he goes somewhere. If he goes to Miami, like you said, you saw somewhere, I think he can get that type of usage. If he goes to the Bills, I think he can get those points. If he goes to Jacksonville,
for sure.
New York Jets, probably not. They got a lot of They got a lot to figure out there.
All right, I'm gonna try and move this along. We have Chris Carson. Chris Carson not tagged. He's gonna be free agent this year. My personal opinion, I'm a little surprised. Seahawks have always been touting a motto of run first. Chris Carson has been a stud for them. He does have injury concerns, though. What are your thoughts on Chris Carson's possible landing spots? And if Seahawks don't have Carson, where do you think they go? Carlos Hyde is also a free agent, by the way.
So in Seattle, you've got Rashard Penny, DJ Dallas, and maybe like Travis Homer or something like that.
Travis Homer.
Seattle's in trouble. Seattle's in trouble. They might really try to get Carson back. That's a guy they relied upon a lot. And when he was healthy, in a prove it year last year, he was great when he was healthy. But he's one of those guys, when you got him on your fantasy team, man, he's a constant Q. Constant Q.
Yeah.
We're not talking the type of Q that
I think that is it. Not that Q.
Not that Q.
He does have some injury concerns. I have to think that that's the main reason that Seattle didn't want to continue with him. I don't think that he's really primed for that workhorse back role anymore. I don't think he signs with Seattle. Where I'd like him to sign, if possible, I'm looking at the Chargers. Last year, they're rolling out Kalen Ballage, practice squad guy. It worked out for a few fantasy people, but they have Eckler. Eckler's got his own injury concerns. Eckler is essentially a wide receiver who can run the ball. If they can bring in Carson to just play 1 or 2 downs, let Eckler take it, and even have them on the field both at the time. They just lost Hunter Henry. That's going to open up some targets for Eckler. I'd love to see Chris Carson in LA for the Chargers.
That's a good one. That would be a good fit. You're right. I mean, they were. I've had Eckler. I think I had Eckler a couple years ago, and yeah, he's not the best running. His stat line, I feel like I remember it being like 12 rushes for 45 yards, which is not bad. Yeah. I mean, it's probably like 4 yards a carry or something, but
then 8 receptions for 95 yards.
It was all about the receptions. And with Justin Herbert's arm and the way he can put that ball just about anywhere down the field, you got to have some play action scheme, and you have to have some threat with the run. Yeah, that's a good call, man. I would be all for Chris Carson in San Diego.
I think that'd be a great fit. LA. Next up on the list, we may have to run through some of these. I think we might be running short on time soon. Kenyan Drake.
Time limit. Ain't no time limit, brother. I don't know why I'm talking like
Kenyan
this.
Drake. Kenyan Drake was not tagged by the Arizona Cardinals. Personally, I don't really see where else he would go. I think he's going to re-sign with the Cardinals. I think the timeshare that they had going between him and Edmonds was effective enough. I don't really see any other team showing a huge interest in Drake. I don't know about you.
What stands out to me about Drake is that it's, like I said earlier, it's like Aaron Jones and everyone else, like a bunch of guys I named are very injury prone, got some mileage on them, like Carson, Connor, Fournette, Gurley, Leveon. Drake's that one guy that's relatively young compared to those guys and doesn't have a lot of significant injury history. So I think he'll get paid. He won't make what he would make had they franchised him. So I think they had to not franchise him. So you could be right. He could go back to the Cardinals. Personally, I'm not a fan. I would never draft Kenyan Drake. I'm saying it right now. If he was available in like the 14th round, I would not get Kenyan Drake. Not a fan.
We'll make a note of that after the show. We'll track his progress next year versus your 14th round pick. Next up, we have Leonard Fournette. Kind of an up and down year for Leonard Fournette in Tampa Bay. Obviously in a timeshare with Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones and Fournette, it seemed, alternated starting duties every week, despite what Bruce Arians said every single press conference. He would go with one or the other, and the opposite would happen. So I don't know if that's just coach speak, if he's trying to throw people off his game, or if there really is no discernible line between them. Fournette was not tagged. I've seen rumblings that he is going back to the Bucks, but if I'm Fournette, I don't know if I want to. He's shown that ability to be a number one back in Jacksonville. I don't know if I'd like being part of a timeshare with someone else. I think that Ronald Jones has shown some value there. I'd probably look for something else, maybe the Jets. Not that anyone wants to go to the Jets, but at least you'd have those starting duties. What are your thoughts?
I'll say something that I've never said before. I would never draft Leonard Fournette, even if it was in the 14th round. I would never draft Leonard Fournette again. made that massive mistake a few years ago. No, as far as where he might go, did you see that? Did you see that someone wrote that that there was some type of confrontation in like week 15 where he had either asked to get more of a premier role or get cut, and they were like, "You're not getting that premier role, so you either get used to it or we will cut you." Something like that happened, and he took the bench. He basically was like, "Okay, I'll sit this out." He wanted to get cut, and
I did not see
that late into the season. So there's a part of me that's like with you where he probably wants to be a number one somewhere, but the way he looked in the playoffs, especially in the game here in Washington, he looked beast, man. He was running 5-6 yards a pop
here against the Packers, against the Chiefs.
So
he looked amazing.
But he might.
But it's like, when does he decide to turn it on? I mean, do you want a guy that is he doing? What is it called in the NBA? Is he doing like load management? Like what? Why can't he do that during the regular season?
It's kind of a coincidence, right? Where a bunch of Tom Brady's playoff teams, Super Bowl teams, have a running back that comes out of nowhere late in the season and puts it on.
Yeah.
So maybe there was talks like that.
Maybe
like,
it's Brady.
Let's save this guy until we need him.
Right.
But
I don't know. We'll see on Fournette. Either way, I don't think he's going to be a big piece, at least fantasy wise. He may contribute on an NFL level, but at least in my mind, fantasy wise, he's not. There's not really too much there to go into. Speaking of not too much there to go into, Todd Gurley was not signed to a franchise tag. Do you see him signing anywhere in a starting capacity?
You can't. I don't
think there's any way.
No, you can't. I don't see how
he had his opportunity in Atlanta.
No. Like every statistic that I have seen on Todd Gurley shows that this guy needs to hang it up.
Yeah. I'd agree. Which is a shame. Those couple of years we had were magical.
Oh my God!
But I agree.
Remember that year? I don't know who I traded, but I sent like 4 of my like starting caliber players for one guy, Todd Gurley. Because he was,
I think it was 2018.
He was an automatic 30, 35 points. He was what I feel like he was probably better than what McCaffrey is when he's healthy, right? What Gurley was doing was crazy.
I don't know. CMC puts up easily 30 points a game. That's pretty tough to compare. He was. I had him one year. He carried me to the championship one year, but he was getting me probably 25 points a game. But that was under that high flying Rams offense. Sean McVay was his inaugural year there. People weren't really ready for it. No one had prepared. It's never really been the same for Gurley ever since. And we've seen it this last year in Atlanta. He's been outshined. He's been outshined by a couple games. He was outshined by Brian Hill, who, I'm sorry, is a lost cause. He's been outshined by Ito Smith. I think Gurley will sign somewhere for a couple million as a backup, probably.
Brian Hill, there's no hope for you.
He is done. He knows it. I know it. Hit me up, Brian. We'll talk about it. We already so wide receivers. We talked a little bit about Antonio Brown.
Same thing with
going back to the Bucks.
Real quick, I wanted to ask you same question right back at you, but Leveon.
Le'Veon Bell? That Le'Veon? I don't know why I asked that. There's only one Le'Veon.
That Le'Veon Bell?
No, God, no. There is no way that Le'Veon Bell is getting a starting position in any offense. Number one, it's the injury concerns. Number two, he had his opportunity in Kansas City last year with the best quarterback on the planet. Maybe not the greatest O-line. Patrick Mahomes sees pressure at like a 30% rate, which is insane. Everyone gets through that line. Maybe they don't have the best run defense, but he was outshined by CEH. I don't think he has it in him anymore. That patience only goes too far. He's never been really the strongest runner. Very patient. He's got great hands. But there's no way that I see him in a starting role. I see a similar fate for him as I do Gurley. He's going to sign a backup deal somewhere. I don't know. Maybe he'll resign with the Chiefs as a backup, but I don't see it going anywhere beyond that.
The Chiefs got the Damian Williams coming back. I'm excited to see him, man. He to me was that Super Bowl MVP a couple years ago against the Niners. But
right, yeah.
I want Washington.
You feel the same way about Lev Bell?
Yeah.
You're not satisfied with Gibson?
I'm not satisfied with Gibson. I'm probably in the minority in that. Anybody I tell that to, they start going nuts. Like, are you crazy? Did you see what Gibson did this year? We need more running back help.
Kind of with you.
Like McKissick has that, complements Gibson well, I guess, but they're also very similar in the sense that Gibson can catch the ball.
Yeah.
I would love some type of power back to come in here and
like a bruiser.
Yeah. Like it would have been perfect had Darius Geis not been a complete scumbag, but
Sure.
I hope. Like I wouldn't be upset if they go one of the first 2 rounds for one of these top running backs. But out of the free agent class, I wouldn't be cool. If they got Chris Carson on the cheap, that'd be cool. But everybody else, no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied to a degree, I guess, with what they have right now. More than anything, I just think they have bigger fish to fry. They need a quarterback more than anything else. They need another receiver opposite McLaurin. If they solved those 2 problems and then got some solid like middle linebackers, I'd be satisfied with the Gibson McKissick dynamic. I agree with you. They don't. I think it would be a little bit better if Gibson were more of a downhill runner, big bruiser type, because McKissick is so the opposite. But I mean, even Gibson wasn't Gibson a converted wide receiver? Like he's not some bruising first and second down back. He's a little dude. He runs hard, and that's great, but eventually that's going to wear off as his age creeps up there. And McKissick is great out of the backfield. I wouldn't hate signing another running back. I'm with you. All right, so wide receivers, we have Antonio Brown. We had started kind of to talk about him. I have him going back to the Bucks. Seems like that's the only place in the last few years that he's been able to succeed, and I think that'll continue. I think Tom Brady wants him back, and I think, especially now after the Super Bowl run, I think Tom's going to get what Tom wants, and I think Brown is going to find a way to make it work with the Bucks. What do you think?
I don't think there are other teams really wanting him. He went to New England a couple years ago for a couple games with Bill and Tom, and now he went to the Bucks. It seems like the only guy who wants him around is Brady. So wouldn't be surprised if he got some type of cheap deal to go back there. Would you want him to?
Yeah, I don't.
Would you want him to go to Washington?
No. I don't think. I just don't. I don't think that they have the structure in place that a guy like him would need. The program under Ron Rivera, while I think it has the potential to be great, I think it's still too new. They don't have. I don't think they have really just the programs and structure in place to have a guy like Brown. If he is with the football team, who's he looking up to? I mean, who can tell Brown to like sit down? If you know what I mean? Like on the Bucks, you've got Tom to do that. Or even on the Patriots, they had Bill to do that. Like who does? Maybe Ron, but in the locker room, who are our star players? Terry McLaurin, Chase Young, Cam Sims, like who?
No,
nobody.
I'm with you.
To AD.
I'm with you. It's almost like the only marriage is wherever Tom goes. It's like it might not work out anywhere else.
Yeah, I have him going back to the Bucks for sure. And I think he'll take a discount to go back to the Bucks. Next up, we got Will Fuller. Fuller to me has shown that he can be a star. After D-Hop left, Fuller really showed up. I think he's got the hands, he's got the footwork, good route runner. It seems apparent now that he is not going back with the Houston Texans. He was not tagged. I very much doubt that they re-sign him. I've seen a few different landing spots kind of around in rumors for him. The Packers, it's kind of a dark horse there. Jets, Bears, and Dolphins, pretty much the same landing spots as every other free agent in the class. My dark horse was the Packers because they need it. I think they need another receiver. Somebody of Will Fuller's caliber playing opposite Devontae Adams, I think would just light a fire under that offense. But the Jets could use it. My money's probably on the Jets. Bears could use it too, although their quarterback situation is kind of up in the air. I think you do well with the Dolphins as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Will Fuller's going to get paid. Will Fuller, of the list of wide receiver free agents, is a really interesting one because he's shown the ability to be a number one, but has some injury history and has that suspension. So someone might get him.
He's going to miss the first game of next year as well. It's going to carry over from this year.
Okay.
The suspension.
So someone might get a really good deal with getting him. Will Fuller, do I want him in Washington? Yeah. I'd like a guy like Will Fuller. I see Will Fuller probably right under Golladay. And then a few of the other guys like Curtis Samuel, Marvin Jones, T.Y. There's one guy I really like that's under the radar, not a big name. And that's Tim Patrick from the Broncos. I'm not sure if he's a free agent or restricted free agent.
I believe he's unrestricted. Let me see.
That guy's nice and has had some questionable, quarterback play.
Oh yeah.
He stepped up once,
to say the least.
Once Cortland Sutton went down, Tim Patrick was a guy that You could say he was a solid flex play in fantasy. And he might have not even been the number one guy on that team. You had Fant, you had what's the guy? You had Judy, Melvin Gordon.
Right. Well, Jerry Judy's a talented guy.
He's nice.
Yeah. I think I would say at least among wide receivers, Tim Patrick had to have scored the most points on the waiver wire out of any wide receiver, because he was widely unowned. Nobody picked him up. And for weeks there, I mean, he was putting up a solid 14, 15 points a game. And people just hear Tim Patrick and they're like, we're on Tim Patrick for? Because he sounds like an accountant. Tim Patrick, CPA. He doesn't sound like a football player. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. He is restricted, so he's probably going back with the
going back. He's going back. They'd be stupid to let him go, man.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, they're not franchise, but they're not, they haven't been straight cut yet. There's like a couple days in certain people's contract, right? But we could see a lot of these guys go back. We could see T.Y. Hilton go back to the Colts, Tim Patrick to Denver. One guy I already saw that's like
a lot of them will go back.
Yeah, one guy I saw is like absolutely not going back was Marvin Jones. You like Marvin Jones coming to Washington?
Yeah, I'd love Marvin Jones coming to Washington. I'd like him. He wasn't the name that I had in mind. I guess I'll just say it. The name that I had in mind for Washington was actually JuJu.
Oh.
I think JuJu would be a perfect fit for Washington. I think that he's shown so when AB left Pittsburgh, everyone kind of assumed that JuJu would just slide into that number one receiver role. And if there's anything that I've seen, it's that it seems to me he's not comfortable with that role. He doesn't want to be the guy. So he struggled for a couple years. Then when they started incorporating Johnson, Claypool, even James Washington more, all of a sudden when JuJu's not the main guy, he starts to perform a little bit better. That's what I kind of gathered from that. I don't think he wants to be the number one. I don't know, from what I understand, you don't wholeheartedly agree, but I think Terry is a for sure number one in this league. With Terry leading the offense and JuJu as that like short field possession guy, I think that would be a killer combination for Washington. JuJu is my guy for the Skins.
Only reason I'd like JuJu, a couple of reasons. Obviously, he would go perfect in the offense. He'd be another weapon. He's explosive. He's at this point he's a veteran, and he's only 24 years old. Another reason would be to just lock a guy like that up long term. You could lock out of all these guys we're talking about. Some of these guys are 27 to 32 years old. JuJu's 24. A team could give JuJu a 6-year deal and lock him up. And so with Washington, if Washington locks up a guy like JuJu for 5-6 years, you have your number one or number two for a long time, and you don't know what's going to happen with McLaurin 2 off seasons from now when he's most likely looking to get tagged or not.
Right.
I'm with you as far as
it would be nice to have some consistency.
Yeah, I'm with you as far as I love it. I would love it. It won't happen.
Why is that?
These teams that have like 50 to 70 mil in cap are going to be able to give a guy like that a 5-year deal. Hey, you know what? It could happen. It could happen because after
I think we could do a 5-year deal with JuJu.
After this
We've got
year,
how much in dead cap going to Alex Smith? What, 10 million dead cap? Sounds like we're probably going to get a quarterback in the draft. Most likely,
it's going to
Mac
be about
Jones.
40 mil. After it's all said and done with the cuts, they're saying it could be around 40 to 50 mil in cap space. But now that I'm thinking about it, I remember seeing like the following year, there's not a lot of guys locked in with Washington. So Washington's going to be a team with a lot of cap. So you're right. But, they got guys like Allen and Payne and Sweat and Chase that, they're McLaurin and a lot of decisions they'll have to make. But I'd love the move. I'd love to have JuJu. I definitely love JuJu over Tim Patrick, but I think value-wise, if they can get some type of cheaper deal with Will Fuller or a great deal with Tim Patrick, I'd be cool with that too. We definitely need a wide receiver to complement McLaurin and Logan Thomas. Someone said, I think it was Clacky that said, Hunter Henry, bring on Hunter Henry to DC to go and have that tight end tandem.
I saw that.
We just need weapons.
I agree. We definitely need more weapons than we have right now. It's, we kind of look down on the quarterbacks that we've had, but they don't really have weapons. I mean, the combination of Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, and Heineke last year, made Logan Thomas look like a star. Logan Thomas did play hard. I saw some catches that I would have never thought I'd see out of Logan Thomas. But I just mean that they're not working with much. They never have had these types of weapons. I mean, the last time that I can think that we actually had like a solid number of weapons was probably like the RG3 days when we had Alfred Morris running the ball off of RG3's RPOs. And then we had Deshaun Jackson to stretch the field. And then we had Pierre Garçon as like a bulldog, and Jordan Reed, when healthy, as maybe like the best tight end in the league. But that was the last time that I can remember we had like a multitude of weapons. Ever since then, it's been, one guy here, one guy there. And even last year, we've got Scary Terry, and then who? Cam Sims, Steven Sims Jr., Isaiah Wright. Like, I think Lamar Miller was somewhere in our practice squad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, McKissick caught, 80 passes. We definitely should.
True.
We definitely should not have a running
Gibson.
back catching 80 passes.
No.
Only guy who can pull that off is Alvin Kamara.
Yeah. He's not Alvin Kamara. He's not Austin Eckler. I mean, McKissick he's got good hands. But that's pretty much it. I mean, he's not hurdling over dudes or sprinting down. He's not outrunning everyone on the defense. He's great for fantasy purposes, but I mean, McKissick I wouldn't call him like that great of a weapon. So we got, let's see, I was looking up cap hit for Washington 2022. We owe 97 million. So what does that leave us? Like 80 million?
Yeah, the following year, the cap could go up to 200. Washington could have
right. So over 100 million.
Right. And they'll, obviously they got to complete a 53-man rosters, but they're going to have, they're going to be probably in that top 10 range again. That's why I wonder if the Scherff move is just, hey, let's give him another year. Let's see what happens. We will have a tough schedule. We need some players. We need good players, but we're not ready to give him. We're not going to give him a long-term deal. Unfortunate for Scherff. And then maybe that big spending off season comes next year. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it kind of comes down to the draft, to what we can get in the draft. When's the draft? Like May 1st,
29th?
May 2nd? Oh, I thought it was the beginning of May.
It's like a 3-day. It's like April 29th, 30th, 1st, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on what we're able to do in the draft, and then they can kind of evaluate free agents and what they need. But I don't know. To me, there's no time like the present. I mean, the Eagles are in rebuild mode, as they should be. The Giants are still, I think, kind of finding their way. Dallas hasn't had an opportunity to rebuild that defense. They've got Dak. They'll score points, but they're going to allow 40 points a game through next year unless they take a swift turnaround. So as a Washington fan, to me, there's no time like the present. I mean, you've got a stout defense. Some have called it elite in our group chat. I wouldn't quite say that. But stout defense, a decent special teams. Steven Sims Jr. has really shown himself. To me, a for sure number one in Terry McLaurin. A decent running game. They're a couple pieces away from competing, at least getting into the show. So to me, it's why wait? Do it now or don't do it at all. Because the Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys aren't going to suck forever. And this is a horrible division. And I think they should try and dominate it now and do whatever they can do in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of fans feel like that. I think a lot of people feel that way. It's like, hey, the division sucks. We just won it with 7 games or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, get into the show and see what happens. We were this close to beating the Bucs last year.
Close, man.
And that was with our star defense playing terribly.
We gave them hell. We gave them a bigger, tougher game than the Chiefs did. Maybe the Packers.
Or the Packers, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a guy
I think
who
their
came out of
toughest
nowhere.
game was against the Skins.
Yeah. They got to get.
I hope he can. We've talked about this on other shows. I hope Heineke can find a way to bring that kind of energy and not die.
He's not the guy, man. As much as we want him to be the guy, everyone wants him to be the guy so bad. He's not the guy.
I would love for him to be the guy.
I can't wait for the draft, man, because there's a lot of explosive receivers. There's a long list of free agent receivers. Yeah, they could really. They're going to improve the offense. They just need someone to pass the ball. So I'm standing by my prediction since like week 4 of last year. We need Ryan Fitzpatrick on this team to give us a chance to take that next step. We need a guy like that.
I love it. I've said that a couple times too. I think you and I have talked about that as well. I would love to see Ryan Fitzpatrick here. I think that he, at the very least, he gives us a chance. We have a defense that's able to do most of the legwork. We just need somebody that can throw it more than 5 yards downfield, or somebody that's not going to throw 4 picks a game like Haskins, or just, I mean, at the very least, a game manager. Fitzpatrick is a smart guy. He'll be able to figure this out quick. And if we can get a receiver in the draft, so assuming that we're not using that first round to pick up a quarterback, or maybe we still do, probably still should. But if we're able to get a receiver in, I think you had told me earlier today, you were talking about how there's a litany of stud receivers in this draft. It's a very deep draft receiver wise. If we can get one of those guys, put him opposite Terry, and then spend a couple million on Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe draft a quarterback, develop him under Fitzpatrick. I just don't see how you lose in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, when is the last time that a team has handed the keys to Ryan Fitzpatrick? To be like, hey, this is your team. Take us to the promised land.
Buffalo, like 10 years ago, probably.
Yeah, they keep using him as a bridge. If someone hands the guy the keys,
something else,
I think he could be nice. He could be better. Like I imagine 2021, a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick opening up things down the field. That's going to be better for Gibson, better for McKissick, McLaurin. I imagine with the 19th pick, say maybe something happens and like a guy like Jalen Waddle drops to 19th. I don't see that happen, but if it does, McLaurin, Waddle, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, maybe they sign on the cheap. This offense could be.
I like that.
This offense could be a top 10 offense with a defense that's a for sure top 10 defense. We have the best punter in the league every year.
Tress Way is a godsend.
He is
to Washington fans everywhere.
He gives us a chance at field positioning at least. But I look like Scott Turner. That's our offensive coordinator, right? Like what he was able to do with Alex Smith, Haskins. We were in games where Haskins was throwing interception after interception, and we were still in these games. It's hard to fathom. Kyle Allen and everyone's getting hurt, and it's just like, all right, Heineke, you're going in to play the Bucks. Tom Brady's going to be your opponent. Like he
put on a show.
They have to invest. And that's why I don't think in the first round they should go quarterback. I almost hope none of these guys like Mac Jones and Trey Lance. I'm secretly hoping they don't fall because it's a waste of next year. I don't think those guys would just be walking in and taking the reins in 2021. I hope those guys are taken, and some of those other guys like Waddle or Kadarius Toney fall to 19, and we could use them next year. But we need somebody like, I don't know. I mean, we've said Fitzpatrick, but if it's Tyrod Taylor, if it's Cam Newton, if it's Mitchell Trubisky, we need some explosiveness on this offense.
Yeah, I think for me, Fitzpatrick is my first choice for sure. Among the reasonable, the free agent class right now. I'm kind of with you on the draft. I think if you don't get Lawrence, you don't get Fields, you don't get Wilson, and if you don't get Lance, because I think that if you mentioned Lance, if Lance fell to us, I would be stoked. There's no way that he's falling to 19 though. Because he's for sure a bit of a project. He's not somebody he's not plug and play next year. He's not going to lead the offense next year. He's going to need to sit for a year, maybe two. And in that instance, a guy like Fitzpatrick would be perfect as a signing. He can kind of learn from him. I just don't think there's any way that Lance falls that far. But I'm with you on Jones. I am not excited about Jones at all. Like everything I've seen has Jones going to Washington because Washington needs a quarterback. Jones will probably fall to right around our range, and we love Alabama guys. But he reminds me of Eli. Like he's got terrible footwork. He looks short. He looks good, but he also plays for Alabama. He's got the best offensive line in college football, and he's still. I had watched a couple games of his. He sees ghosts, dude. And he never gets hit. I don't get it. I don't understand how he's out there seeing ghosts when he never gets hit. And that's with Alabama's line. Imagine like a weak line where he really doesn't have any protection. He's going to be shitting his pants. Sorry. He's going to be very frightened. And I'm not impressed. I think he could do well somewhere in the right system, but I don't think that's what Washington needs right now.
So it's going to be a matter of, like you said, we should wait. Like it'll be interesting to wait for the draft. It's going to be a chase. It's going to be a Ryan Fitzpatrick is training and he's waiting to get signed. Mitchell Trubisky, Brissett, Newton, Tyrod or Winston. These guys are waiting for that phone call. And it's gonna be like who decides to hit up these free agent quarterbacks before the draft. Like they're not gonna wait to see who falls to them. You know what I mean? Fitzpatrick could be off the board by the time the draft kicks in.
And he probably will be. I would hope he is.
That's why I hope.
I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is underrated.
That's why I hope a team just gives him the keys and hits him up, call up Fitzpatrick and give him a 2-3 year deal. Don't do a bridge thing. Just say you're our guy. That's what it's going to take.
He's 38.
Yeah, he's old
now. So it's 6 months. He'd be almost 39. So by the end of that contract, he would be like 42, 43.
And he will have won 3 Super Bowls with Washington.
Right. Maybe, I don't know if he wants to play that long. I don't know. He's never shown any signs of slowing down, but you got to think eventually it's time to hang it up, right?
He looked good in Miami last year. He's a starter. He's one of the 32 starters.
If I saw anything from that, for sure. Oh, 100%. If I saw anything from that was not even his play in Miami. It was more his reaction to getting benched for Tua really told me how much he wants to play. He said that he was devastated. He was heartbroken by losing the starting job to Tua, which really tells me that he wants to play. So I think if a team like Washington can sign him, then that's the way to go. All right, we're going to wrap up a couple minutes here. Any thoughts on Golladay? I know we talked about it earlier. I think he's the best wide receiver in this free agent class. I think sounds like you agree. I haven't seen any potential landing spots for him yet, but there are plenty of places he could go. Packers being one of them. Of course, I'd love to see him in Washington. I don't think we can afford him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking at those top teams right again with like the salary cap. He's going to be paid. He's looking for his one last contract like that. That's a guy who's already 27 years old and just hit free agency. Jacksonville could be a team like they have some receivers, but anything to help out a guy like Trevor Lawrence. The Patriots haven't had a stud receiver in a long time, but they generally don't pay them unless their name is Randy Moss. The Jets invested heavily in receivers last year in the draft with Rashad Perryman. Going into next year, they really only have Crowder and Braxton Berrios. You can go to the Jets, but there's really like Kenny Golladay, right? If you're Kenny Golladay, you want to go to a team that has an elite quarterback. He wasn't even happy in Detroit with Stafford, it seemed like. Like he wants to go to a winning team that, he can go to the Colts. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the Colts.
Yeah. That's a great call.
Yeah, like everybody's being connected to Miami because they have some cap space and they definitely need some firepower. It'd be interesting how it happens with them at the number 3 pick. You see, Miami just traded. They swapped picks with Tennessee late in the first and Tennessee sent that guy, the tackle that they drafted in the first round last year that had a bunch of problems off the field. He didn't play at all, basically, but a couple of snaps.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so essentially, if that works out where they got that guy from Tennessee to play like their tackle position, then that the guy from Oregon, Penny Sewell, is out. And you might see Miami either trade back from that 3 spot or get Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase. So then you wonder, do you really need a guy like Golladay? So I would say the Colts. The Colts would be a great team. That would put them over the top, man, for sure. Like Carson Wentz, Michael Pittman, and all those tight ends, Trey Burton, Jack Doyle, and I don't know if Burton's a free agent or not, but Golladay out there, geez, with Hines and Taylor, with that defense,
Cox.
Yeah, with that defense, I want to see. I hadn't even thought of that until you asked that question, man. I want to see Golladay with the Colts now.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great call. All right, man. Well, I think we've gone over our allotted time for the night, but it was really great talking to you. Everybody out there, make sure to like and subscribe. Hope to see you guys on our Friday show. We're going to be covering top 10 fantasy running backs. Should have a few more of the guys on the show, and yeah, hope to see you there. Have a good night.